Hey, it's David Wilson Jr. with Dave Sr., and we got some exciting news. As the Ford Bronco makes its return to the Ford family lineup of vehicles. So, brought Dave Sr. along today just to ask some questions about his memories of the original Ford Bronco.
Well, actually, when it came out in 1966, I don't remember a whole lot of it, from then. But what I do remember, my first memory is that the original founder of the Preston Motor Company, he had a '68 Bronco, and he wanted me to have it. So I call it the Bronco that got away, because for some reason I loved the Bronco, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I do today, and I was really dumb enough to let it get away from me.
I think a lot of people probably have those same regrets, or the person that sold their Bronco, especially with the announcement of the Bronco coming back out. Some of the values of the Broncos today, and definitely an important icon for the Ford Motor Company and definitely for the Preston Automotive Group. So what was your favorite style of the Bronco? Is there a certain one that really caught your eye or had your attention?
Looking back at it, it's the 66 through 68 era, that. And as you very well know, we're embarking on restoring a 68 that we're picking up in Colorado, in the next day or two. So, that's exciting. And that really, a lot of that is, you never really appreciate something until it goes away, right? And then, when the Bronco went away, it had that cult of people, and even though at that point we didn't own a Bronco, we were part of that cult because it was something that was really built into our heritage.
And one thing about the Bronco, and especially the Bronco 2 originally and the full-size Bronco, and of course with the Bronco Sport coming out first, the smaller version, and then the larger version, but definitely exciting times this time with there being a 2-door and a 4-door option that will be coming out. Do you think more people will go back to the original, or do you think that people will adapt and make adjustments and go with the 4-door model?
I really, I don't know. When you go on the, when you go on a lot of the blogs and a lot of the sites, those original Bronco owners are talking about the 2-door, right? They're not talking. They don't want. Matter of fact, I just read something this morning, and a guy said, "I don't want one to go to the grocery store in." That's the, that part of it is something that is pretty neat. So I would assume that the early Broncos would probably lean towards a 2-door. I would assume that the early Broncos are going to be people who are, even though in our case we'll probably be early Bronco owners, but people that are going to use them for what the Bronco was made for.
Yep, and as we both know, 1996 was the last year of the Broncos, so close to 15 years later, they're bringing it back, 25 years later. Sorry about that, my math's off a little bit there, but 25 years later, bringing the Bronco back, and of course, it's definitely some exciting times for us, and just the people that have connected, and people you sold in the past, reaching back out to you that were previous Broncos owners.
I had a great one. A friend of ours, actually Richie Wheatley, I was walking out of church, and he said, the Bronco reveal is coming, right? And I said, yeah, and told him that it was coming, and he said his wife finally is going to let him buy a Ford because of the Bronco.
Well, that's some exciting news. And July 13th is that date that the Bronco is going to be revealed. I know it's a date that we've been waiting for. It seems like 3 or 4 years now since they first talked about it, but one thing that I think Ford has done is they don't want to miss any of the pieces to the puzzle with the Bronco, because it is probably the most anticipated launch that I've had since I've been in my career, and probably one of the most anticipated for you along the way.
I've said this several times over the past year. Never been asked about a launch, Never said, "Are you sure?" That it's coming on a certain time. It's got to be the biggest launch that we've ever that I've definitely ever experienced in my whole career. It's got to be.
So in January of this year, we had the privilege of seeing the Bronco.
Yes.
And for the first time that I can remember, I mean, Ford locked our phones up.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no one coming
bag
in.
and everything.
Yeah, you had to bag your phone, lock it up, and basically throw away the key to see the Bronco. And a lot of people have asked, well, what did it look like? What can you tell me? And there's a lot of pictures out there, but I think that final finished product is really going to be spot on, and it's going to be a game changer for not only Ford, but the timing is perfect for the Bronco launch and the Bronco family of vehicles that will be coming out, because it's more than just the small and the big. You got the 2-door, the 4-door, and so many options in between that is just going to make it incredible to see what's going on and what's happening with Ford and the Ford brand as they launch this iconic Bronco again. Because for me, when it stopped, I was 10 years old, so I remember having a Bronco 2 for a short period of time, but
That was actually a punishment.
yeah, punishment.
Yeah, and it didn't work out real well for me.
I wish we got to keep the Bronco. I wish we still had that Bronco too, literally. So it's definitely some exciting times for me, because it's great to see people that are my age also interested in such the demand of the vehicle, because they're reaching out too, because they've seen them, their parents drove them, or one of their friends or family members drove them, or they still have one in the family and they want to continue that tradition. So I know I'm very excited about July 13th and finally seeing the launch of one of the most iconic products in Ford history.
Yeah, and the fact is, what you just mentioned about them locking up our phones and people asking questions for us, right? You know, my memory, you know, when they lock the phone up and you can't snap that picture, you know, when people are asking about it, it's, you know, I can't wait to see it, because of the fact that, you know, I want to see if my memory was somewhat correct. But, you know, like you said, it looks like they touched, you know, they really touched all things. And one of the things that they did show us, which was pretty neat, was just the way that the doors actually, when the doors do come off, they can actually stay with the vehicle. And what I thought was pretty neat was, you know, the fact that, you know, the competitor to the Bronco, you know, they showed those doors chained to a tree, because, you know, you couldn't do it with that. So it was, that was pretty neat. And I think, like you said, Ford is really, you know, they pulled out all stops, and they've got a, you know, we've been lucky enough that we've seen some teasers and things of that nature, and you know, it's going to be huge. It's going to be something that we've really never seen before, and it's going to, and the way that you know, the excitement behind it is just awesome. And you know, I've talked to different people from Bronco clubs, which I didn't know like there's one in Colorado, there's one nationwide, there's just, you know, they're really just all over the place. And wow, you get to learn a lot about them. You know, you really do. You just get to learn a lot about, you know, the history of it. And, you know, we've gotten to see some of the older commercials, which are gonna, you know, they'll start airing, you know, which is neat, so.
Well, July 13th is the date, and we're excited about it, and we'll have reservation details coming soon on how you can be one of the first owners of the new Ford Bronco. Thanks for tuning in.